Yo family, welcome back to another Marvel Rivals video on the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about Namor. Now Namor is a character that I hadn't really thought about taking a look at. I had a brief little play around with him, didn't really delve too deeply into his kit or anything like that, and he felt okay, but nothing to go ahead and make his own video about. Maybe this is because he belongs to the DPS or duelist category of characters and there are so many options within this group. Maybe he's just not a Marvel fan favourite, things like that. There's reasons to overlook him, but the more that I've played with him and the more time that I've spent with his kit, you end up in the middle of games hitting those 20 kill streaks wondering just how exactly you got there, because from the outside, on paper, he doesn't have anything particularly outstanding within his kit. I think the main key with Namor is positioning and when to take advantage of those abilities. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and maybe Namor just becomes your new favourite character. Once again, just want to give a shout out and say thank you so much to all the new subscribers and those of you that have been supporting and interacting with the videos. It does help out a ton, and if you could continue to do that, that would be amazing. But with that being said, let's hop straight in and have a chat about Namor. So first of all, in terms of his abilities, Trident of Neptune is going to be his main ability. This is his standard attack, if that's what you want to call it. And because obviously I just messed around with him mid-game in between rounds, I hadn't really set and gone out of my way to try him out, I didn't realise just how much of his abilities link back to this, and unless you actually come in and read the text in the ability screen, you probably wouldn't. So at base, you just throw a spear at the enemies and that is your base damage in attack. However, when you do so, this is going to reduce Aquatic Dominion, which is another ability we'll talk about in a second, that reduces the cooldown upon just hitting enemies. So it's not kills, it's just damage done by hitting the enemy with these spears. It then says critical hits cause Monstro Spawn to enter a berserk state, gaining increased attack speed. So we'll go down and talk about that one. Normally we go in order, but obviously because they're linked, we'll talk about two. So essentially, Aquatic Dominion is summon a Monstro Spawn that can autonomously attack enemies. Now these are really good. This is somewhere in between, if you've watched the other videos that I've done on Moon Knight and Loki, this is somewhere in between those ricochet damage anks that you can throw down and obviously Loki's clones in the way that you can position them. Again, if you watch that video, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So you can pop these down, which are essentially monsters but also turrets, and they will fire at and damage enemies. Now again, these have a little bit of radius on them. You can't throw them to the other side of the map, but you can pop them down positionally either side of a choke point that enemies are pushing through whilst they're focused on you and you're throwing those spears at them. Sorry, you should say tridents, need to get out of the habit of that. Whilst you're throwing your trident at those enemies, your Monstro Spawns are attacking them. Now as we've just said, the more at times you are hitting enemies with these, this is increasing the cooldown or getting that ability back faster to be able to throw these down again, but also enraging them so that they fire their attack faster. Now as you can see, when you're throwing your tridents at the enemies, plus you have these Monstro Spawns firing at them as well, it's really easy to do a ton of damage and rip enemy health bars down faster. So this is one of the reasons why I mentioned positioning being a key to playing Namor well. Obviously he's only 2 stars out of 5 in terms of difficulty, but it is something, unless you actually spend some time and come in and read the black and white of what the abilities do, that you don't really realise. So if you position these either side that aren't easily visible to enemies and almost use them as a trap, when the enemies walk into that space, they've got you throwing tridents at their face, plus these 2 monsters going crazy blasting at them, because obviously you can have 2 out at a time, and then your cooldown is building up the more trident attacks that you're doing. So obviously that is how that works. So let's just double back for a second. So the ultimate is called Horn of Proteus, and basically what this does is it summons Giganto to leap atop enemies within range, disabling their mobility abilities. Now this does a decent amount of damage as well. For some of the smaller HP enemies, it's going to absolutely wipe them out, and for tanks and things like that, it's going to do a decent chunk of health off them as well. But it also disables mobility abilities. So anybody that's going to chuck themselves towards you or lunge at you is going to have a difficult time doing that when you have disabled their mobility. So again, with it being the ultimate, obviously you don't get to throw it out again and again, but obviously in specific points of a game, this can be really helpful, especially if you've got multiple enemies in front of you. Now, it's not all about attack. Obviously, Namor does have some defensive capabilities as well with his Blessing of the Deep. This allows him to summon a protective barrier and also allows you to ascend into the air with it. This is going to stop you from taking damage and can allow you to move out of some situations where otherwise you would have just got destroyed. So this has actually become really helpful in certain situations. It's not always going to help if you've got 3-4 enemies around you. This doesn't last all that long, so of course you will still die if your positioning is bad, but that brings me back again to having good positioning is the key to being good with Namor. So when you are in any aerial position as well, you do have also Descend, which allows you to use his winged boots to fall more slowly. This can allow you to get off some of those tridents for a good counter against melee based enemies and things like that. I have a ton of trouble with Iron Fist at the moment. He always destroys me, just throws himself at me and goes absolutely crazy. So for a character like that, this is a good defensive sort of counter for things like that, should you learn to use it properly. We then have Wrath of the Seven Seas. Again, is going to link back to those trident attacks and also the spawning of your monster turrets. Launch the trident forward to damage nearby enemies, then direct all monstro spawn to perform an enhanced attack on the nearest enemy. When the trident hits an enemy, monstro spawn enter a berserk state, gaining increased attack speed. So again, if you get pushed by a tank, this is a good ability to hold on to for those particular situations, because then this is going to have all of your monsters focus on that particular target, and even with tanks, you can rip their health down very quickly. So this is something to bear in mind when you are managing your cooldowns. And of course, for team up abilities, I do always like to mention these as well, just so you can make informed decisions based on who the rest of your team are playing. But should you have a Lunar Snow in your team as well, then you'll be able to take advantage of the Frozen Spawn team up. It basically infuses all your abilities with ice powers, so your Trident will have ice abilities with it, and also your Monstro's attacks as well will also become infused with ice, which is also a really nice thing to have. So realistically, the way that you want to combo the abilities is obviously take on board what I've said about positioning and what particular attacks are good at doing, but you essentially want to use Aquatic Dominion to summon your monstro spawns to attack enemies, then use your Trident to reduce those cooldowns, enabling you to get those back even quicker, and then if you get pushed by a tank or you're getting rushed by enemies, hit them with the Wrath of the Seven Seas to command all of your spawns to launch attacks at them. Again, don't forget guys, if you go down to the very bottom of the abilities list in the character menu, it will give you a suggested combo, which will also show you the most effective way of comboing those abilities. But obviously, as I've already just described, that is the way that you want to go about doing things. And then you want to keep that ultimate in your back pocket as well. If you're getting pushed by a ton of high mobility characters, you can also disable that from them. So hopefully that explanation and a little bit more depth of how his abilities work and how to best position him does help you out. I would definitely suggest giving Namor a try. If you do like playing DPS characters, it's another sort of option to switch things up a bit and have a little bit of fun. And if you are somebody that doesn't necessarily play DPS characters all the time, he might be somebody that is fun for you to try out because he does have his own supports in a way. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching the video today. Your continued support on this Marvel Rivals series that I'm doing has been much appreciated and will continue to be, and wherever you are, whatever you're up to, I hope you have a great day and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.